Good to see everyone. I'm not going to introduce myself. I feel like everyone on here knows me by now because I know most of you are regulars. I'm so excited to introduce Harvey Najim, who's not only a Texas Business Hall of Fame legend, but a dear friend of mine. So all of you have received Harvey's very impressive bio. You'll know he founded Sirius Solutions. I guess, sold partially to private equity in 2006. Finally, in 2015, he completely stepped away from Sirius. Harvey, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not looking directly at your bio.
You're correct.
And he's focused beginning in 2006, he really began to shift his focus towards philanthropy. And for those of you who are not aware of his incredible philanthropy, Harvey is recognized in San Antonio, is one of the most important advocates, particularly for children in that region of Texas. I think his foundation and Harvey have given close to $200 million away on behalf of those causes, with the intent to give a lot more away in the future. So Harvey, thank you for all you've done in your community and for living our mission so well and embracing your success as a responsibility to your community. That's what we try to inspire in the people we fund, the people on this call. And you were just such an outstanding example of that. And we're very proud to know you. So with that being said, this is going to work like all of our calls do. I'm going to ask Harvey a few questions. We're going to, most of them are sort of behavioral type questions that we think are interesting. And then you all can ask whatever you want. Please chat Stephanie Tillison if you have a question. And you don't need to tell her the exact question. Just tell her you have a question and I will call on you to ask Harvey your question. So, Harvey, let's get started. Tell me what you consider your greatest achievement to be.
Well, I would have to say that starting Sirius, having a successful career at Sirius, growing it and I started it with a card table and a folding chair and a 10 by 10 office with no windows, to when I retired in 2015 to 1,700 employees, 1.7 billion in revenues, and earnings of 150 million a year, and which enabled me to start my foundation and help others who are less fortunate.
I know I didn't include these in the initial questions I sent you, but I kind of love the story about how you decided to do that. That one moment at the car wash, right? Am I remembering this correctly?
Yes, you're right.
That inspired that. Can you just share that story? I know that.
Well,
I love that.
I was married at the time in 2004, and I came home and she was gone. And I opened the front door because I thought I saw motion on the cameras that someone was out front. And a guy served me with divorce papers, and I thought that we had a happy marriage, but we didn't. But I had a friend of mine give me a book when I went to get my car washed a few days later, and he details my car for me, and he said, "You don't look like you're too happy." So I explained to him what happened, and he said, "I got a book I want you to read." And the book is called Halftime by Bob Buford. And it's what you do in the first half of your life and then what you do in the second half of your life. And where you, in the second half of your life, that you start helping others and you become more of a servant leader than a business leader. So that's my story.
That's when you went from, it's interesting, I think it was last week the legend we hosted was Lucy Billingsley out of Dallas. And she said she made this shift from fear-driven leadership to help her build her company and make it survive, to purpose-driven leadership. And that's, I guess, when you made your shift.
That is correct.
Okay. I can't wait for this answer because I know how much you love history. Who would you most like to meet if you could go back in time?
I would have to probably say Nelson Mandela.
Oh.
And the reason that I would pick him is because he's got a quote that I love. that education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. Here in San Antonio, the people that live under the poverty rate is 17.6%. Nationwide, it's about 12.6%. So we have a large number of people here who don't have a job, that are housing insecure and food insecure. And I think the way we solve that is through education, because if you have a post-high school education degree, you can get a job. And if you have a job, you have housing. And if you have housing and a job, you have your food secure.
One of my favorite quotes is by Nelson Mandela too, but it's not that one. But what current public figure do you most admire? This is the stumper on all of our calls right now. So we were expecting you to give a really good answer.
Well, there's probably two. Number one, I'm a Christian, so I would love to meet Pope Francis someday. But the other public figure that is in the news for the last 20 months is Zelensky from Ukraine. What he is doing for those people and trying to fight this war against Russia, you can't help but admire what he's doing.
I'm really sorry. That's my phone and I can't make it stop.
Put it on silent.
Yeah, sorry. Did you watch his presentation to the UN yesterday?
No, I didn't. I was busy all day, but I'm sure he did a good job. But, you know, the politicians have two different sets of views on this, that one part is we should continue to support them, and the other part is we shouldn't. But China now, it looks like it's going to be supporting Russia. So, but I mean, Ukraine is important to the economy, even to the US and other countries.
I mean, I know this, so I don't want to play dumb here. You're very engaged politically. Have you always been that way? Was that really important to you from the very beginning, or has that just sort of been a luxury of your success?
You mean with respect to?
Just being able to have the time to be with politicians, pay close attention to policy making. Were you always that way, or
I think I've always been that way. Whatever I do it 24/7, 365.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just who I am. And, you know, one of the things that I've always told all my employees is about a chair of life. If you take a dining room chair that has 4 legs, those 4 legs represent, the first one, your relationship with God. The second one, your family. The third one, your job Monday through Friday. And the fourth one is your friends and your hobby. If you let one of those legs get longer or shorter than one of the other legs, you throw your chair of life off balance, which I don't do a very good job of, but I've tried.
What's your personal motto? That's probably closely tied to it, I'm guessing.
Well, there's a phrase that I love, and it's the phrase is, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care about them.
That's very interesting. Say that one more time.
People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care about them.
Oh, that's so true. Okay, we have some questions, so I want to get through these other questions with you.
Okay.
When and where are you the happiest?
Well, I've always been a happy guy in front of other people. But I will tell you that the happiest, and I went through a period of I wasn't depressed, but I missed Sirius when I retired. But when I see the good that I'm doing in San Antonio and in Bexar County and the counties that touch Bexar County, and how many children we're helping and how many families we're helping, that's made me the happiest.
I love that. And you can see that on your face when I see photos of you at those events. You light up.
Yeah.
Um, which talent would you most like to have?
Well, when I was younger, I played golf once in a while, but I never broke 100. I love the game of golf, but I'm just not a good golfer. But they say that if a CEO is a very good golfer and shoots in the 70s or 80s, they're probably not a very good CEO.
You know, did you read Freakonomics?
No.
Well, it's a famous pop book that these economists from the University of Chicago did probably 2 decades ago. I lose concept of time because I'm so old. But they have a podcast too, and they did a whole podcast on the correlation between companies with CEOs who play, a lot of golf versus companies with CEOs who are not golfers, and the revenues are negatively correlated. Like the more you play golf, the less impressive the revenues. So for all you golfers on the call, something to keep in mind. But okay, I know you're an avid reader. What book has impacted you the most besides this one we talked about earlier in terms of your philanthropic giving?
Well, one of the things, I'm not a very patient person. And when I want something done, I want it done now. And for me to try to, become more patient and live with the chair of life that I discussed earlier, that's something that I have to work on. Like in January of this year, I gave up the presidency of the foundation. And so I don't run the foundation anymore. I'm still chairman of the board. I manage the assets. I do the QuickBooks and the financials because I've been to the Wharton School of Finance and a Harvard Business School. So that's one of my strengths that I like doing. So I still do that.
Books, though. What book are you reading right now?
Well, I'm actually reading 2 right now. The first book is it's called "Leave Something on the Table" by Frank Benak.
He's one of our legends. We love that book.
Yeah, and it's lessons for success in business and in life. And then yesterday morning, I went to a breakfast meeting, and the speaker was Howard Bakar, and Howard is a former president and CEO of Starbucks, and he wrote a book that was given to us, and I started reading it last night. It's not about the coffee, but it's about the lessons on putting people first from his life at Starbucks. Really an interesting guy.
Did he run for president?
No, I don't think so.
He was thinking about it.
Yeah.
Couldn't remember. Well, for those of you, by the way, the book Harvey was reading, Stephanie put it in the chat bar. Frank Benek is the chairman of Hearst, and he basically turned Hearst Corporation around, and he's a native to San Antonio, which things people don't know about these amazing.
I had, Nelson Wolf, the former county judge, has written 8 books. He's writing another one right now. And so I occasionally, when I'm with him, I ask him, I said, any books that you've read that I should read? And he said, you need to read Frank's book.
Yeah, I've heard, yeah. He's an interesting guy. Okay. 2 more things. What is the most important thing you've learned about people from managing them?
Well, I've learned 2 things. Number one, at my career at Sirius, I made over 100 millionaires, but I also counseled and mentored people working for me, and when I heard comments from some of the execs that reported into me, well, so-and-so doesn't appear to be happy here or is not doing a great job, I would call them into my office. I'd say, look, it's my perception, and those of others, that the way you are may not be right for us, and I'm not saying we're right, or the way we are may not be right for you, and then maybe you ought to consider doing something else for a living. And every one of them that left came back and told me that was the best decision that they made and that they're happier today. So, just because you're in a certain situation doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to do this the rest of your life.
Right. When one door closes, another one opens. Okay, last one. What
right.
daily habit of yours do you think is the most important to your success? Like, what do you do every day that you think is the most important?
Well, I try to focus on what's important to help those that are less fortunate, make a difference in their lives when they're struggling, and really focus on children. We have helped probably over 2.5 to 3 million children get an education, get housing, become food secure, have a career doing something. I'm on the advisory board of Haven for Hope, and I had served on that board for 5.5 years, was finance chair and vice chair. And the CEO there, Kim Jeffries, who used to be at Brighton School in San Antonio, sends an email out once a month to the advisory board saying what's new and what's happening at Haven. Well, in her email, she said there were 3 kids from 3 different families that were neglected, some were abused, that decided to leave their homes and go to Haven for Hope. They were still in high school. All 3 of them graduated from high school and wanted to go to college. So I picked up my phone and I called Kim and I said, I'll pay for 2.5 years for them to go to Alamo Colleges, a junior college, to get an associate's degree. I paid for their tuition. I got them free via bus passes, and I got them free books. And all tuition and fees were paid. And that's something that I try to do. When I find out that someone needs money for something, we went to this breakfast yesterday morning, and it was the 50th anniversary of Jewish Family Services, who provides mental health to individuals in the community. And they ask everybody to click on this icon and to donate $50, $1 for each one. So I sent an email, a text to the CEO that was in the audience, and I says, I'll mail you a check for $5,000. That's $100 for every year you've been in existence. She didn't ask me to do that. I just did it.
Well, I wish all business leaders operated like you in the nonprofit space. Okay, we need to turn this over to the audience.
Okay.
Anna, do you have a question today? You're always so good about engaging with our speakers.
Hi,
Appreciate
Anna.
you. Go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Najim. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. Doing
You know,
good.
you wanted to get together and we haven't, so we need to schedule something.
Yeah, so I will send you a message after this.
Okay, good.
Perfect. So, as you know, I find a lot of inspiration from you when you know, in your nonprofit space, your philanthropic efforts, just all of that, because that's something that really touches my heart, with a brother having autism, being first gen. So I wanted to ask, what was like a significant moment or a story from your philanthropic journey that left a really big impact on you, or like made you think like, okay, like I've actually made it and I've actually am like really touching the lives of other people?
Well, in the summer of 2006, I met Gordon Hartman. He's a member of the Texas Business Hall of Fame. He built Morgan's Wonderland, Morgan's Inspiration Island, the camp at Morgan's Wonderland, and now the MAC, which is a multi-assistance center to help people who have disabilities they work with a navigator and they help. And it was, what is amazing to me is when I started my foundation, I did not include two areas that are important today. Those areas are homelessness and individuals with disabilities. And I owe Bill Greehey, who's a member of the Texas Business Hall of Fame and started Haven for Hope, for educating me on homelessness. When I was on the board there, they had about 700 people at Haven, 125 children there. Today, there's almost 1,800 people at Haven for Hope and over 300 children. And then when Gordon Hartman and I spent time together, I realized that Gordon tells a story. He has a daughter named Morgan, and Morgan was 30 yesterday. She's probably has the IQ of a 4-year-old, and she doesn't, her developmental disabilities, she has trouble communicating, although she can walk. She doesn't need a wheelchair or anything. But people that have disabilities really struggle because they can't get everywhere where those of us that can do. So those are the two areas that I think have impacted me the most. And with the food bank, I'll give you a third one. Prior to COVID, the food bank was feeding 60,000 families a week. At 5 per family, that's 300,000 people. Within 2 to 3 weeks of COVID hitting and everything getting shut down, that number jumped to 120,000 families, 5 per family at 600,000. And that 600,000 represented about 30% of the population of Bexar County. So those are the areas I think I focus on, plus medical care.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Harvey, you're very sweet to keep recognizing other people in our organization. And for those of you who don't know, Morgan's Wonderland is one of the few theme parks in the country for children with disabilities. And it's pretty cool that that whole concept was born in Texas.
Yeah, and
Haven, go ahead.
Yeah, he opened it, I think, in 2008. And since then, they've had visitors from all 50 states and from 126 countries. And he did the water park, Morgan's Inspiration Island. He's done the camp. He, in his speech yesterday, I introduced him at the luncheon that I went to. Most camps for children do about 2,900 to 3,000 campers a season. They've already done this season 6,000 campers. 6,000, awesome. Twice the number.
Pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And it's inspired a lot of other people to try to do similar things in their own areas of the country. So I love that that started here. And Haven for Hope, of course, the people not from San Antonio on this call, which Harvey has been so important and growing, is
I'm the second owner to Haven to Bill Greehey.
Right, Bill Greehey was a Texas Business Hall of Fame legend who essentially made Valero what Valero is today, who grew up in extreme poverty. You know, that is a blueprint for homeless shelters all over the country. It is an amazing organization. If you don't know about Haven for Hope, I would encourage you to check it out.
Bill and I are good friends, and I told him, because he was at Valero, the CEO, and New Star, the CEO. And I told him, I said, your legacy will be Haven for Hope, because no one, including myself or anyone that I know, could have done what he did with Haven for Hope. And the same way with Gordon Hartman, what Gordon's done with everything that he has done to help his daughter and people like her. I told Gordon yesterday when I introduced him, I said, no one could have done what you've done. Those are two incredible individuals.
Meredith, you're muted.
Hi, how are you?
I'm muted. Craig, you're up.
Okay. Harvey, hi, I'm Craig Cummings. Was selected recently in the Future Business Legend Award in the military veteran category, specifically to Greg Armstrong. I was West Point graduate and 17 years in the Army, mostly intel, and then started entrepreneuring. And after a couple exits, now I have a VC fund called Moonshots Capital, and we invest heavily in military veterans. And part of our intent is we believe in building wealth in the military veteran community, which spills out throughout the entire veteran community. But that's just the intro. First of all, like I think the team, the TBH, the whole team should send like a box of microphones to Harvey if we have him on again, and we just say grab one, because you've dropped like 15 mics in this call. It's unbelievable. I'm just so happy to hear all this, Harvey, and what you've done. It's massively inspiring, and I know that's the intent of inviting us. So thanks to the whole team. I mean, some comments, question. I'll try to move quickly. I talk about military veterans a lot. I help a lot of veterans transition to the private side, and one thing I say is, I'm like, don't use the word retirement. In many cases, because they're like 42 years old, they've done the 20 years and now they're retired. I'm like, don't say that word. You're transitioning to the civilian sector. But anyway, I heard you earlier say you retired, and I look at you, and you may be the most not retired person I know. You're not even home now. You're at an office in San Antonio. And so I was kind of like, I was asking like how you think about retirement. Use that word, but I'm like, you're not retired.
No,
You left you've only left off-ramp things, but you've retired like 0%.
well, when I decided to give up the presidency of the foundation, the email that went out said that I transitioned
Okay.
out of that role. So I didn't say retirement. I was 83 in July. I don't think I look it. I don't think I act it. The only difference is that I get a little tired once in a while, but at my age, you do get tired. So, and by the way, I don't know if you know this, but I was in ROTC in college. When I graduated, I was commissioned as second lieutenant in the Army, Medical Service Corps. And when the Vietnam War was, I was enrolled in graduate school because it was during the Vietnam War and I didn't want to go on active duty right away. So when I did finally go on active duty, I was assistant chief of data processing at Brooke Army Medical Center here in San Antonio. And when I got promoted to first lieutenant after 16 months, got out as a first lieutenant, got the Army Commendation Medal.
It's amazing. Grab another microphone. Drop it. Maybe I can just ask this very quickly. I was thinking of all these stories, like, what would you describe as your superpower?
As my what?
As your superpower, like what is it you do that you think threads through success in both the for-profit and nonprofit? Maybe it's a leadership quality or something.
You know, when you're running a for-profit company, you're focusing on driving revenues and bringing dollars to the bottom line. And when you're in a nonprofit, you focus on helping others who are less fortunate. And I still have fond memories of my time at Sirius, but this has been much more rewarding for me, what I've done the last 17 years, because I've helped so many people. The problem is that my schedule doesn't stop. And when you start a foundation, you can't really retire. You still got to run it. So what I have been going through the last 2 years is putting in place on the board and the staff at the foundation people that have the skills to replace what I do. And so I've got a new president. I just hired a guy that was the CFO for, just brought a guy on board to the board that was the CFO of Corner Stores, and a personal friend of mine, and he'll take over the financial part that I do, because I've got a center that I established at UTSA. It's from the classroom to career and helps kids. We started it 3 years ago. We have 1,000 people in it today.
In summary, I think you should never use the word retired.
Oh,
Ever.
I'm not going to.
That's never.
But I
Thank
got
you.
a plan for it. I have to plan
Fair
for
enough.
when I'm no longer here.
I
Because
get
want-
that.
I want
Succession.
the foundation
Succession.
to run
Yes.
forever.
Yeah, Succession. Did you watch Succession, Harvey?
Huh?
Did you watch the show Succession? No,
No,
I don't know if I want to recommend that one to you,
no.
but it's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. We have one more question. Brandon, do you want to close us out? Harvey, I can't remember if you've met Brandon before. I think y'all have met. Go
Hi,
ahead.
Mr. Najim. I'm a San Antonio native, and I've always been curious about the motivations of people who start a business with $0 in revenue and take it all the way to, in the billions over many, many years. Because along the way, there's all kinds of risks and worries and stress and temptations to sell, or, something that maybe dismotivates you. And so I was curious if you had any primary motivators along the way, and whether that changed over time as the business grew.
Well, you have to hire good people, and damn few of them, number one. Number two, you've got to take care of your employees. And the book that I started reading last night by Howard Behar, it's not about the coffee or the computers, okay? It's about the people. And I took care of my employees. I didn't have anybody leave in the 35 years that I ran Sirius that I didn't want to leave. And I think if you take care of your people, and you like, let me give you a couple examples. I was getting coffee one morning many years ago, and this African-American lady came in to where the coffee was, and her face was all bruised and everything. And I looked at her and I said, are you okay? What happened? She said, well, I was waiting for the bus to come to work this morning, and someone attacked me and grabbed my purse. And I said, well, is your car in the shop? She said, I don't have a car. In 48 hours, I handed her the keys to a Ford Explorer and gave her the title, and she was my friend forever. I've got a housekeeper who's been with me 33 years. She's never, and she's had 3 back surgeries in the past 3 years, and she hasn't had a car to drive. And she asked me if I would help her get a car. She wanted a Chevy Equinox. So I went online, I found a used one, 29,000 miles on it. And I called my friend April Lancera, who's a household.
We know April.
Yes. And I said, April, can you, it was at her. She said, yeah, I'll sell it to you at 500 over our cost. So she called me back and said, I'm sorry it was sold. And I said, well, that's no problem. I said, when you get another one like that, call me. She said, what about a new car? I said, it's for my housekeeper, it's not for me. And I said, she said, what if I sold you a new car for the same price as this one? I bought her a 2024 Chevrolet Equinox for $22,000, no miles on it. My God, you'd have thought that I gave her $10 million. I mean, she loves that car, and it was a gift that I gave her, and she's happy. So I think if I had a guy that runs a plumbing company, and he wanted to know if I could help with an event, a golf event that they were having to help veterans and to help people that are retired. So I sent him some money, and my gosh, now he won't charge me for my plumbing work. But I still pay him anyway. I check.
Before we close this call, can I ask for a show of hands?
I don't know if that
anyone
answers his question or not, but
it answered the
No, that's
question
great.
in a tangential kind of way. But I do think we should do a show of hands of anyone who needs a new vehicle before we close this call.
does that help, or do you want to follow up on that?
It
Yes,
does
no,
not help.
that's
I need
great.
a new car, and you didn't address it. I'm just kidding. That was it. Harvey, thank you for all the time you took with these questions.
Oh, you're more
and
than welcome. And
with
hey,
us
good luck
today.
to all of you. And I've got your descriptions here of what you're doing. Proud of all of you. And Anna, I'm glad that you like the nonprofit world. I tell you, there's a lot of people that need help, and it breaks your heart, because when you have so much in life, and you got to share what you have with others to make life better for them. So good luck to all of you.
Harvey, thank you for all you
Thank
do to
you.
support us.
Thank
We're
you all.
grateful to you. Y'all have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.